Hello and welcome. In this video, I'm going to be sharing 5 more recommendations of unrated, not unrated movies, underrated movies, and ones that I think are really underappreciated. This is an ongoing series I've had on my channel, so if you missed any earlier entries on this one, you want to check them out, go back and do so. So without further ado, let's get ready to jump into my picks. Welcome once again, my name is Austin, and this channel is all about helping you to dig deeper and go further to better understand faith and film and everything that's in between. If that sounds exciting to you, make sure you click the subscribe button down below so you don't miss out on any future content. As I mentioned, this has kind of been an ongoing series on my channel for some time now, and I've kind of finished putting together a list of 5 more recommendations that I'd like to just recommend that I think are underrated and underappreciated movies that more people should recognize or appreciate or even just check out for the first time to see how they like it. As I go through these picks, not all of them are necessarily just okay, mediocre movies. Some of them are really good, some of them are not as great. They're all on various different ends of the spectrum, but I just think that some of these, for certain different reasons, are underrated and underappreciated. So, first pick off my list for this one is going to be the Book of Eli. Now, I follow a YouTube channel that does kind of reactions. He's a filmmaker and watches movies and does kind of analysis on them as he's watching them, and he watched for the first time this movie not too long ago, and I watched his reaction and just was reignited of kind of how really good this movie is. It's really well done and really stylized. There's a very distinct style to this one of the way that everything is framed, the way that action is conveyed, and then at the very heart of it, it's a really interesting story about the power of the scriptures and the Bible, which is something you would not expect in a post-apocalyptic, really violent action movie, but nonetheless, they do a great job kind of conveying the significance of the scriptures and the power that it can have over people, whether it's in the right hands, the wrong hands. I find it all really interesting and really fascinating, and you get some awesome action, a great performance from Denzel Washington and Gary Oldman along the way. So definitely one that I consider to be kind of underrated and underappreciated. I think people kind of forgot how cool this movie was. So if you've not seen this one or you haven't seen it for a long time, give it another watch. I think you'll appreciate it. Next, we have another post-apocalypse movie, but this one's a bit more on the fun end of the spectrum, and that is Love and Monsters. Love and Monsters is such a fun adventure. This one didn't do great from what I remember in the theaters, and it had a bit of a resurgence when it came out on Blu-ray. A number of people that I know kind of in the collecting community picked it up, really liked it, and really enjoyed it. Dylan O'Brien gives a really good performance. He has a really kind of quirky personality and stuff like that that makes the movie just really fun to watch his performance. Besides that, you got some great special effects with the different monsters, as this apocalypse is giant insects attacking people. And the premise of this one is he is living in a bunker with a group of people surviving and finds out that his girlfriend from before the apocalypse is alive and is in a bunker, I think like 20 miles from where he is. So he decides, even though he's kind of a bit of a coward and a klutz, he's going to find her and get back with her. So you get to follow him on his journey to try and find her again. So like I said, it's a really fun one. You get some really creative, really interesting monsters. You get some fun twists and turns along the way. It's a really good balance of the serious stuff and the fun stuff. So if you never watched this one, this is probably one of the top picks off of this list for ones that I'm recommending here. I definitely think you should check this one out. All right, next pick, we're gonna go with a kind of crime mystery drama. This one is The Kid Detective. It's kind of a throwback to just kind of like the old school kind of crime dramas in certain ways. It's about someone who was a kid detective growing up and solved this big case for his town, and since then has kind of tried to keep that momentum going, but he's all grown up now. The town's kind of moved on. There's a lot of other stuff going on. So he's kind of washed up, and he's trying to figure out kind of who he really is, and just really lost amongst himself. So really good one. There's a new like kind of crime that comes up, that someone comes to him. They believe that someone killed her boyfriend to find out what happened. And so he kind of takes on that case, and a lot of other stuff is figured out along the way. So this one's really cool. This one has a really interesting threading of the line of seriousness with just the right amount of humor along the way. The jokes are kind of at a good points. It's a kind of dark humor in certain different elements as well. So one that I really enjoyed, it's from just a couple of years ago. I think it was a bit more of like an indie project, but really good performance from Adam Brody, and then however you pronounce her name, Sophie Nellis. She gives a good performance as well. They have good on-screen chemistry, and I just really enjoy the kind of throwback mystery crime drama elements of this. So it's a really interesting one, and it'll definitely keep you guessing along the way. And it does a good job of kind of exploring the kind of mental headspace that this main character is going through. So one that I really think is good and definitely an underrated one. Next, we have a animated movie that I've talked about at least once on the channel, maybe just in the Blu-ray haul that I picked it up in, perhaps one more video besides that, and that is Ron's Gone Wrong. This is from, I believe, 2020, and this is an animated movie that came out through 20th Century Studios. So it's an animated kind of Disney movie, but not really. So I think it kind of got swept under the rug when it comes to all the Disney stuff, but it's really good. It has a really, really heartwarming story about friendship and what it really means to be a friend to someone in a world that's filled with different technologies and facades that people put up. It's really fun. I have a great time with it. I watched it and immediately wanted to add it to my collection. I've heard it looks fantastic in 4K too, so I'm really excited to eventually give this one a watch on 4K, but I just really enjoy this one. Stuff that's just outside the regular formula of Disney animation. Disney animation is kind of the front and foremost of the industry, but there's some great other stuff that comes out along the way, and this is one that I think definitely deserves more attention. And then finally, we have a horror movie that I don't know if I've done any horror movies on these lists yet so far. And this is one that came out, I think, just a year or two ago, and that is Nighthouse. Nighthouse stars Rebecca Hall. She gives an amazing performance in this one. She carries much of the film as she's kind of the main actor and really only actor on screen for a lot of this movie. She plays this woman whose husband mysteriously committed suicide recently, and she's kind of moving through that grieving process of trying to kind of understand what happened, how they got to that point, and then figuring out some kind of more mysteries that he might have been involved with along the way. It's a really cool one, really interesting. It does some really neat stuff with the camera work and whatnot, with all of the different things that are going on with her. I won't really spoil too much of it, but she starts having all of these kind of different visions and all that stuff. Not along the way of like Malignant, that kind of thing, but it definitely sets itself apart amongst horror movies. It's something that really explores those themes on grief and loss in a really interesting way. And I think it has a lot to say about that, especially for someone like me who hasn't necessarily dealt with that kind of stuff. But I think it puts you in a really good headspace to kind of understand someone going through that, as well as some really good horror thrills along the way. So that wraps up my 5 picks for this entry on my underrated and underappreciated movies list. Thank you for checking it out. Again, if you want to hear some other recommendations from me, go ahead and check out previous entries in this video series. I'll link to that playlist down below. Be sure to share some of your favorite underrated and underappreciated movies in the comments section. Thank you for sticking around to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.